All right, good morning, everybody. We are going to kick off our day with Kyle Larson, driver of the number 42 McDonald Chevrolet. Kyle is 10th in points in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, started both races here at Bristol last year from the front row, led 272 laps, finished in the top 10 both races. Kyle, what do you have to do coming into this weekend to take that next step here?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I and our team have to get better when the track kind of changes from the first half of the race into the second half. Seems like every time I've been here, whether it's Xfinity or Cup, I can pretty much dominate the first half, and then I guess I come back to everybody else, and then I always make mistakes on pit road and stuff like that. So just gotta clean it all up, and that'll give me a better shot at getting a win here. So, and then you got to get somewhat lucky on being in the outside lane to restart. So, but yeah, Bristol's my favorite track, and always get excited to come here. So I'm really looking forward to the weekend.
Thank you very much. We will open to media questions. Please wait for the wireless mic. Start with your name and affiliation. We'll go Hemric, and we'll go back to Mark.
Hemric, USA Today. So much has changed about this track over the last 5 or 6 years, the grinding and the sticky stuff and all that. Does it take you a while to really figure out where it's going to be good in practice, or do you have an idea going in?
No, I mean, I don't feel like it's changed a whole bunch. They added the VHT stuff, I think, now the last 2 years or so, and it makes it seem like we practice around the bottom now. And then, myself and Stenhouse seem to be the only brave ones that work in the top during practice, and then that lures everybody else up there. And so then it gets more similar to how it'll race, where typically in the race, the bottom would be good for a handful of laps in the beginning of the run, and then you can move up to the top. And then it seems like towards the end of the run, when your tires are kind of just junk, you can kind of go wherever you want. So I think Bristol is by far racier than any track. So it's nice to see that they've kind of, it seems like they've gotten somewhat happy with the track package that they got now, and haven't really messed with it a whole bunch from last year. So there's no place more fun than Bristol when you get to lap traffic, and I feel like that's what separates some drivers, so it's a lot of fun.
We'll go Mark and then Woody.
Mark Arrow, PRN. I was just going to sort of ask you, do you always feel like things are so hectic that you're always in a traffic jam here?
Yeah, and that makes it fun. You don't really have any time to relax. Like I said, lap traffic, it's so much fun here, and you catch it in 15 laps or whatever, and then you're just carving through it. So you just catch a guy and you go to wherever they're not, and that's it's fun to have options like that. So I was watching the race back, and I just, like I've been saying a lot, but I just get really excited about this place because it kind of races like a dirt track, and that's a lot of fun.
As a follow-up, has short track racing changed at all in the last 3 years? It seems like it's a little less physical on the Cup Series than it used to be. Do you feel that, or is everything about the same?
Well, I wasn't around. This is only my 5th year in Cup, and the physicality of, I guess you're probably more talking about moving people out of the way and stuff like that. That hasn't changed, at least since I've been in the Cup Series. If anything, maybe a little bit more. But I don't know. I think, back in the day, the bumpers didn't line up, and, somebody could get to the back bumper, somebody can just spin them out. So, now where you just kind of, there's probably more contact now, but it doesn't result in people spinning out or crashing. Now that our bumpers line up, you can kind of shove people out of the way, or run into them a couple times and let them know that you're faster than they are, and then they typically get out of your way. So, I think it's just the product of the race cars, or the race cars bumpers lining up better now.
Woody came with MRN. Kyle, curious to get your thoughts on after the All-Star announcement this week about the new package they're using there with the restrictor plates and the aero package like the Xfinity cars used at Indy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't really know what to expect. I felt like at Indy last year with Xfinity, I think it's a somewhat similar package to what they ran. The racing on TV came across better, so yeah, I think we'll have the same effect probably for the Cup Series at Charlotte. I don't think it'll be any more exciting for us in the seat because it'll be a lot slower, but I think it'll come across on TV and in the grandstands a lot better. So, NASCAR's always trying to please the fans, and I think this is a step to make the racing come across as more exciting.
Bob and then Kenny.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. In the last week, discussions have ranged from NASCAR handing out pit guns to restrictor plates at Charlotte to, Monster doing a one-year deal and whether they should even have a title sponsor. Do you get into any of all that talk, and do you just ignore it all? And if you ignore it all, why do you?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really paid attention to any of it all week. I've actually golfed every day, so I haven't been on my phone a whole lot. And yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't ever really pay attention. That's really not. It doesn't really have anything to do with me. So yeah, I just focus on driving, and that's what I love to do. I don't want to get wrapped up in all the other stuff. I was golfing with Michael Waltrip the other day, and he was like, "Oh, what do you think about the All-Star package?" I was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about," and he explained it to me. So yeah, I just I don't know. I just show up and race, and whatever is whatever. Yeah, it helped loosen me up a little bit.
Kenny Bruce with KennyBruce.net. First of all, I'm kind of concerned if you're going to Michael for advice on what
I
the
didn't go to
packages
him for advice. I just listened to his. I just listened to him.
So, did you say earlier that normally you seem to have started off strong in races here and then kind of fell off? And if so, is that on you, or is that on the team not keeping up with any conditions or keeping up with changes on the car?
I think it's probably more on me. As the track changes, I think I have to get a little bit smarter in how I communicate on what changes. I think need to be done to the car to keep turning the corner good and having good grip. So yeah, I would say it's more on me, but yeah, I don't know why I seem to struggle, but it seems like everybody else just becomes a little bit better than I do the second half of the race. So maybe this week will be different.
We're going to come back to this side of the room. We're going to go Chris, Jerry, Caleb.
Chris, CatchFence.com. Kyle, how are you feeling after last week's wreck at Texas, and was it one of the hardest hits you've ever had?
Yeah, I felt relatively fine afterwards, which was good. Initially right after I got my left elbow on my seat on the carbon, and then my right shoulder, I think I kind of fell into the padding there when I hit the wall. My neck was just a little bit stiff, not too bad. The second day was probably a little bit worse, but it could have been way worse. So, thankful that there's safer barriers and our team builds safe race cars. So, but yeah, it was one of my harder hits for sure. I think we turned like 44, 45 Gs with the hit, which is, I think, numbers-wise, my biggest hit. I felt like Fontana a couple years ago hurt worse. I hit more head-on. But, yeah, they all hurt.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net and PRN. A couple real quick. Looking forward to Richmond next weekend. Your thoughts about going in there and for that race?
Yeah, I mean, normally I would say I'm not that excited to go to Richmond because it's a place where I've just ran average at before. But then last year we had some good runs and was able to get the win in the second Richmond. So anytime you win somewhere, it gives you an added bit of excitement and confidence going back there. So yeah, I feel like our short track program is pretty good the last year and a half or so, and so yeah, I think we can go there and have another good run.
And a quick follow-up. Today being Friday the 13th, you superstitious, or does that bother you at all?
Well, it's just practice, so it doesn't bother me. But maybe if it was a race day, it would. But no, it doesn't. It's whatever. I didn't even think about that until you said it.
Last question.
Caleb Whistler, KickingTheTires.net. Looking back at the first 7 races of the season, where would you assess your team and thoughts on the new Camaro and what you've learned so far?
I feel like we have pretty good speed in our cars. We haven't had a lot of luck to go with it, but I feel like our average running position's been okay. The tracks that we are typically good at. Martinsville, I always seem to struggle, but I felt like we ran a little bit better there. Texas, I felt like Texas, I was similar in speed to Kyle and Kevin. And then we had our right front issue. So I feel like we're close. We still have a ways to go to compete with the 4. I think he's, in his own league right now. And then the 18, their team's good, and Kyle's just really, really good. So I feel like we're, 4th or 5th best-ish. I don't know. It's hard to say, but we got to get finishing a little bit better and click off a win, and then I think we can consider ourselves a favorite again.
Great. Thank you very much
Thanks.
for your time today. We are now joined by Trevor Bayne, driver of the number 6 AdvoCare Ford. And Trevor, you run well here at Bristol. 7 starts, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s. We've also finished in the top 15 5 times. So what is it about coming to Bristol that suits your style that you perform so well here?
You know what, I always look forward to coming here for multiple reasons, but one is that our cars seem to perform well here right now, and they have for the last few years. The vertical load of the banking, our cars really like that when there's no free floating through the corner. A lot of the flatter tracks we seem to struggle at, but here at Bristol, you're able to drive the car really hard, load it up, get the all 4 corners to work really well. So that's a good thing for us. I think our last 4 races, we have just under a 9th place average, and we can't say that about many other racetracks, if any other. So coming here, you're going to be competitive. That's always fun. It's not as fun to go to the racetrack when you think it's going to be a weekend, you're going to struggle. But coming to Bristol, when we have a shot to have a top 5 car, it gets me pumped up. Love coming here to see the fans that I've seen since I was, 5 years old coming to this place. Last night in Knoxville, we had our Food City family race night, and, people bring by pictures, and I'm holding them like as a baby, and now they're 14, 15 years old. So even I feel old when I go to that. But just love coming here, and excited to get the weekend going.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and open up to media questions. Please raise your hand. Wait for the wireless mic. Kenny?
Kenny Bruce, KennyBruce.net. Trevor, do you go into races thinking about, okay, this is a place where we have a chance to win, or do you go into them thinking this is a place where we have a chance to get a top 5 or top 10?
Yeah, right now where we're at, I'd love to be at a place where I could say we're going to win every weekend. And we know that has to be our goal. If we're going to be in the playoffs, you got to win. I mean, that's just how it is basically for any team. So there's nothing more fun than being in that position when realistic expectations are going to win. We're not in that place right now to where that's realistic or where you set yourself up to make gains. For us right now, it's about the small gains, the small victories. Last week at Texas was one of those. We finished 12th. That's our best run of the season, which isn't saying a lot, but it's something to build on. We felt like we had fast cars. We were able to make it through the Demolition Derby and 2 crashes and somehow still finish 12th. So we try to build on that. Bristol is a little bit unique because we have had so much success here, though. Daytona, Talladega, you go to those thinking, you know what, we got a shot to win and be in the playoffs and just get another win. Being fast at Bristol, if you can have a top 5 car with the things that happen here as quickly as they happen, you have a shot to win. So at the end of the day tomorrow, if we feel like we have a top 5 car, then I'll come back on Sunday thinking, you know what, we got a shot to come win here. But again, it's all about being realistic in your expectations. If you go to the racetrack thinking you're going to be top of the board every weekend and you unload 20th, it's hard to make those baby steps that you need to become a top 15, top 10, top 5 team. And that's something we've been preaching basically to our guys for the last 4 years is set goals and go meet them.
Caleb?
Caleb Whistler, Kicking the Tires. Looking back at the first 7 races of the season, where would you see your team in the field, and what do you see as your strengths and weaknesses?
Just pure execution hasn't been what we want it to be. Some of the things have been our fault, some haven't. You look at some of the mechanical issues we've had with tires or different components, those have been things we can't control. Things we can control are loose wheels and different things like that have taken us out of the running. Daytona, I felt like we had a shot to win until we had that issue. So we haven't done ourselves a lot of favors, but we've also been fighting hard. And that's all I can ask of my guys is to show up every week hungry to do better and to want to come and give it their all, not give up, and dig in deep. And it gets tough when you've been digging deep for 4 or 5 years trying to turn things around when you don't get the fruit of that, when you don't get the results that you want. It can be really easy to lay down on a tough week, but we're trying not to do that. And like I said, last week at Texas, having a fast car and a decent run helps rebuild momentum and get us on the right foot again. We had the off weekend, and we had to kind of take that as a reset. But with the new structure, I think it's a little bit easier to turn things around now. The fact that the first 5 races may not affect your chances at a playoff run is a really good thing. The fact that you're still on the same slate as anybody else below 16th in points, you just got to go get a win. That's really nice to have. It does allow us to have some of the mentality Kenny was asking about here to show up and just win. You aren't points racing per se anymore. You're going to win, and everything else is what it is. It allows me to go home at night, and I don't know if you guys ever watch Supercross, but those guys lay it all on the line. They crash, and they get up, and they're like, no big deal, And I think that allows us to have a little bit more of that mentality in the situation we're in, where we know that we're probably not a top 10 car on points at this point in the season. We're able to go for the wins, and if it doesn't work out, then you move on to the next week and start getting hungry for that next race.
Where do you guys feel like you are in that turnaround of Roush and Wayne?
Oh, man, it's kind of hard to assess at this point because we've had so many execution and issues. But on raw speed, I feel like we're comparable to where we were mid-season last year. I don't know that we made gains, but we didn't really lose as much as I might have thought we would in the offseason, just with different things happening in our sport with manufacturers and different things. I didn't know where we were going to stack up, honestly, into this year. And surprisingly, without many changes, Ford is still on top. And that's really cool to see. Roush Yates has done a great job with our engine program, with the 2-race sealed engine program. I think they've done a great job. And so we have that. We have Ford's winning races. So you don't have any excuses if you're in a Ford, that's for sure. And it gives us the ability to go in and say, hey, we got to work on our team. We've got to get our cars faster and drive them better and work on them smarter and do all those things and execute well.
Tucker White, SpeedwayMedia.com. Trevor, with your hometown of Knoxville being just a 90-minute drive from here, what added pressure, if any, does that add to you performing here anytime you come here?
Yeah, I enjoy this race more than any other. I don't really ever come here feeling pressure. It's more fun for me. It's close to home. I get to drive up the morning of, and my family's here, my friends, people that have supported my career get to come and watch. So it's fun for me. And then also being that we're fast here makes it fun. I think if I wasn't from Knoxville, I'd still love Bristol because it's so unique. It's not your typical 1.5 mile or mile track. It's so different than any other atmosphere we race in that it's a lot of fun to come to. Whether it's your home track, your favorite track, or whether you hate it, it's still a fun place to come.
Go over to Mark.
Mark Garrow, PRN. Has the short track racing, from a physicality standpoint, it seems to me it's changed a little less physical the last few years. Do you feel it's changed? And, in the process, do drivers less tempted to push guys out of the way to gain positions?
So when he asked about Bristol there, it's funny you asked that because I was just thinking about what makes this place fun. And I think the fun part of it is such a physical racetrack, not just the cars touching but on your body. The physical demands of this place are tougher than anywhere we go. And so the reason that's fun for me is I know I work at that. With AdvoCare and, the bikes that I ride, all the training that I do, you can tell the last 100 laps if somebody's a little bit tongue hanging out the right side of their mouth. They're worn out, and you know that you can go up and mentally push on those guys a little bit. We may not have to do it with the front bumper, but you catch somebody, you see them start missing their marks, and hey, man, this guy's hanging on by a thread. If I go push him a little bit harder, he's going to run out, and he's going to make a mistake. And so it's more of the mental side and the physical side on the body that makes this place fun. There are times when you do have to put the bumper to somebody, and you have to keep moving. We see that happen here. I think what has happened in our series, though, is kind of that mentality I was just talking about that we don't have as much, is how important points are. We've learned that over the years. You can't make a mistake. You can't have a bad race. You've got to get on points. I think people are starting to understand the importance of winning in the playoff structure and the unimportance of points for some of the teams. Some teams, will get in on points, but that allows us to go and lay it all out there. A guy like myself, I don't have to worry so much about the points racing, and I can go, and if I need to push on somebody, I can, and if I get pushed on, well, I was in the way. But obviously the VHT and the stuff that they're doing here at Bristol is tried to help create a passing lane where you don't have to hit each other. If you're all in one lane, then the only way to go forward is to move them out of the way, whereas if you have the bottom to use, you can make a clean pass.
How would you explain to the fans how hectic it gets out there in the traffic at Bristol?
Well, if you've ever tried to leave the track after the race, I'll just do that at about 130, 140 miles an hour. So that's about how it feels.
We'll come back over here to Jerry and then Kelly.
Real quick, today being Friday the 13th, do you have any superstitions? Do you worry about that? And then
No,
no.
That's not me, man. I don't know. What does that even mean?
And then next weekend, more short track racing at Richmond. So your thoughts on going from here to there?
I love short track racing. It's what I grew up doing. Obviously, it's natural for me. I want to keep working on our cars to get them better. I feel like our struggle every week is that we can't turn the center well enough. We're tight in the middle, and we're limited how much we can free them up because we get loose in, especially tracks where you have a lot of braking. It kind of bit Stenhouse and myself at Martinsville being really free on the brakes. I wheel hopped, got into the fence. It happened to him in practice. Richmond's a place getting into turn 3. You can have that issue. So we got to keep working on our cars to figure out what we have going on in our short track program to get them tight enough on the brakes where we can free up the middle of the corner, and that kind of transfers everywhere. So that's what we're working on. I love short track racing when the car drives good. We just got to get them there so we can go and have fun.
Kelly Crown of Racer.com. Trevor, you touched on it a few times of, fighting over the last couple years to kind of really get this program where it needs to be. You were very honest about that yesterday on Sirius about, you fight and you fight and you fight and you don't get the results. I'm assuming, when you came to Cup, this is not exactly kind of how you envision these last couple of years going, and then with Ricky showing promise last year, what has it been like for you to keep fighting that way, and what did you think would these last couple of years would be like?
Well, it's hard when you're growing up as a 5-year-old kid in racing, or a 12-year-old, or a 15-year-old, 20-year-old winning races. You expect to continue that. That's kind of the expectation. You thrive off of that. You want to win. You see yourself as being a Cup champion or being the dominant guy, and you see that promise growing up. So when you get here and you're in a situation where you struggle, it's really hard. It is, and you depend on the people around you to kind of motivate you, to encourage you and keep you going, and then you kind of have to look at things and remind yourself, do I have what it takes? Do the people around me have what it takes? And you got to build on that confidence. What you can't do is start second-guessing yourself, your ability, your God-given talents, and then you can't question the people around you. You've really got to believe in each other and keep pushing forward. So that's where we're at now. I've got to go to the racetrack every weekend thinking that I can drive as good as anybody out here. Otherwise, I'm not going to give my best. And so you really have to work at that. And it's not easy. It's not easy to struggle. It's not easy to be questioned. It's not easy to go to the racetrack even when you're 15th to 20th place race car every weekend. When you know that you can go win and you want to go win, you want to prove that you can win, that makes it tough. So normally people can fight for a short period of time. You can do it for a year. You can struggle for 2 years maybe. And then you hope that you finally come out of that. But we've been battling for a long time. We're still going to keep battling. I don't have any quit in my system, and I don't think the people around me do. But, man, it sure would be fun to get the results from that. It would be really fun to be the team that can come here thinking we're going to win every week or run top 5. So not only would it be fun, it's just what we all want to do. It's what we all planned on doing our whole lives, and so you just keep fighting.
All right, we're going to wrap up with Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Trevor, you talked about being in the position just to go for wins. Your team's not the only team that can have that approach to things. And I guess my question is, what more can you do? And if you're doing it, other teams are doing it, why aren't we seeing more upset winners? I would suggest that probably haven't seen an upset winner since Casey Kane at Indianapolis, and that was in part, I mean, they made a good pit call, but then there was some chaos at the end. Austin Dillon at the 600 with a pit call, and Newman at Phoenix. So you're talking about 3 in the last year. So if you're doing it, guys why isn't it happening more? Or what more can you do? Because a lot of times we see green, caution pit stops, people come in and do the same thing.
Yep.
So what more can be done differently?
It's that's tough. I think the stages, you kind of have known cautions, so we see a little bit less of the fuel strategy races playing out the way that they might have a couple years ago. And I think you see the few fast guys being a lot faster right now. And like I was telling Harvick on the way to the drivers' meeting in Phoenix, I was like, man, you're taking away our excuses of anything, in our Ford camp, and you're dominating. And he said, man, I always tell Rodney I can't drive a slow car fast. My car's got to be good, and you're seeing these fast cars just dominate. And, it's hard to do anything to outrun those guys. You watch Harvick last weekend have an issue, pit road, and he still comes back and runs well. And so it's really tough to beat guys when they're that fast, no matter what you do. It almost has to come to a fuel strategy race. It has to come to a super speedway or a short track where there's a lot of attrition, But for me, when I say that, if the opportunity does present itself, you go for it. It may not work out, but you don't have that second guess of, should we try to stretch our fuel window? Well, of course you should. It just takes any of that second guess out. And for me as a driver, it allows me to just lay it all out there and keep putting myself in every good position that I can. Does that mean be a wild man? No, because that doesn't put me in position to win races. I have to be smart, but you can be aggressive and you can just go for it. And again, the race like California where I was outside Newman, typically you might not keep it on the outside when he's coming up, but when the leader's right there about to put you a lap down, you got to stay in it. And when it bit us, when it did cut down the right front, well, that really stinks for our points, but we need to win anyways, is kind of the way I see that, and it allows you to move on. It would be fun to be able to points race and be good enough to do that. I would love to do that. I feel like I'm good at that, and that's one of my strengths is I've learned over time. At the beginning, it wasn't a strength, it was a weakness, but you learn over time how to take care of your equipment and get the best result you can. But now at this point, it's not really the situation I see us in. Yep, thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot for your time this morning, Trevor. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Bristol Motor Speedway. We are joined by Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who is driving the number 17 Sunny D Ford in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series this weekend, and Ty Majeski, who's driving the number 60 Sunny D Ford in the NASCAR Xfinity Series race this weekend. Gentlemen, besides your being teammates at Roush Fenway Racing, you guys seem to have a common bond this weekend. Why don't you talk a little bit about your sponsorship on your cars?
Yeah, we got 2 Sunny D Fords this weekend, which is really cool. Hank Hartong, that's owns Sunny D. He's a huge race fan, huge fan of Roush Fenways, and to see him, kind of cross, both series in the same weekend is really neat. Like I said, he's a big advocate of what we do at Roush Fenway Racing, and helping his companies grow like he wants. So it's been a good partnership. Obviously with the Zest company as well when we had them on the car, but. We also thought that, this weekend my practicing hadn't been going so well, so I figured I might let Ty practice my car, and I'll race it. I've struggled in practice lately, so maybe that's news to Ty. I didn't tell him that before we got up here, but that's going to be our suggestion.
I'm up for it. No, I'm really excited to have Sunny D on the car this weekend. Always been a fan of the drink, and I got a chance to meet Hank, the owner of Sunny D, down at Daytona last year, and that was really cool to meet him, and got to meet such a great partner of Roush Fenway Racing the last handful of years, and excited to carry the torch here this weekend, and hopefully we can give Hank and Sunny D a pair of good runs this weekend.
All right, we'll now open up to questions for Ricky and Ty. We'll start here with Jim.
JimMotterMotorsport.com. As you alluded to, Ricky, you've had some struggles to start this season, but last week, even in the backup car, you had probably one of your best performances going during that race, which was a very difficult race even to stay on the lead lap for a lot of people. When the mechanical issue hit, did the wind just come out of your sails? Were you able to take something positive anyway from what you were able to do in that race?
Yeah, I mean, I think we took some positives away that, once we get everything right, we're capable of, at least running, on the lead lap. Like you said, that was a difficult race to stay on the lead lap, especially starting in the back like we did and only having a few laps on our car. So I think it gave the guys confidence that, they can get, the car right, even though we don't have a ton of laps on it. But also, we had some speed. Texas was a good race for us last year. And all the numbers and things that we look at, we thought our benchmark was probably the same as it was last year. It wasn't a performance that was any better than last year, but it was nice because it was a step up from the mile-and-a-half racetracks that we've had so far this year, and that was a positive. It was a bummer. I thought we were sitting in a really good spot there, restarting third with newer tires. Definitely wasn't better than the 18 or 4. But we ran with the 4 at some points in the race, when they had their issues coming back up through the field. So I was really kind of excited when that caution came out and we hadn't pitted yet, because I felt like we were probably a 10th to 15th place car before the caution came out. But, track position means a lot there. And, it kind of knocked the wind out of ourselves. I was hoping I was going to have a good finish, good run coming into Bristol. All the guys that we were kind of racing for that 16th, 15th position in points all had issues, and I thought we were sitting there looking really nice. But unfortunately, it didn't happen, but we are at one of my favorite racetracks now, so that's good.
We're going to go to the far right to Mark.
Mark Arrow, PRN. 2 questions. First for Ty. Can you talk about this opportunity with Roush Fenway Racing, the pressure on you when you don't have that many shots at it?
Yeah, first of all, just very thankful for the opportunity everyone at Roush Fenway and Ford Performance has given to me and Austin and Chase as well. Just an opportunity to prove ourselves in the series. My mentality is just to take it as another race. I've been racing late models for a long, long time, and I've won quite a few races, and I just take this as just another race. And I think that's the mentality you got to have. You got to go in with an open mind. Just trying to learn everything I can. I did a lot of studying and preparation coming into Bristol. Watched the last 2 Xfinity races here multiple times, and watched Dartfish and qualifying, and leaning on Ricky as well. He's always open to answering any questions that I have. So just leaning on my resources and trying to be as prepared as possible.
And for Ricky, has short track racing changed on the Cup Series the last couple of years? It seems a little less physical to me. Do you feel that way, or is it still the tear them up kind of thing if it needs to be?
I mean, I think, all of us don't like tearing race cars up, and, I think it's, we all have a lot of respect for each other out there. We have a lot of respect for the teams and the crew guys that are building these race cars, that you don't want to just go tearing up people's cars. But, I think if the opportunity gives itself, you have an opportunity to move somebody out of the way for a win, I think you'll definitely see that. But, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's less physical. I think it's just a little bit smarter racing. It's tough to, really get to somebody and move them. It seems like our cars are kind of, even at short tracks, you got dominant cars, and you kind of, track position means a lot. It's not a thing where, you have a handful of guys that can go to the back at a short track and run up through the field pretty quick, but you don't have many of those. So you kind of ride in line where your speed is.
Any additional questions for Ricky and Ty? Up front to Bob.
Bob Hockhurst, ESPN. For Ricky, a lot of the talk this week has been, talked about pick guns being issued to teams. We talked about Cup title sponsor and should there be one, all-star race rules. Do you keep up with all this stuff? Do you care about all this stuff? Or as a race car driver, do you just ignore it all?
No, I'm not in the driver council, so I don't really have to pay attention to any of it. So, the drivers that are in the council, kind of keep us updated. And send out stuff to us when things are getting ready to be announced. The pick gun issues, I have no clue what's happened to some of the pick guns. My team, I think, has fortunately been okay so far with pick guns. The aero package I found out, I think a day before it went out. So for the All-Star race, we were actually talking in meetings at the shop, and I was talking about things I wanted to try, to get our mile-and-a-half program better, things I wanted to build in the race cars for Charlotte for the All-Star race, and they were like, I think it's going to be a little different than what you think. So I was like, oh, thanks. So I found out about that, and then, obviously the title sponsor, Monster, I think they've done a great job, and I've had a lot of fun with them. So I enjoy them being a sponsor of ours and, our series. But as far as really paying attention to it, no, I don't. I show up to the track and get in the car, and, if I pull into the pit stall and they start using electric DeWalt pit guns, it doesn't matter as long as it's the same for everybody.
We'll go to the right to Woody.
Ricky, we'll look ahead to Richmond next week. A lot of changes coming at that track, and another short track, but completely different. Tell me about your outlook for Richmond.
Richmond's been a good racetrack for us over the last few years, so I really look forward to going there. Now that the tires that Goodyear's been bringing there, it's been allowing us to run all over the racetrack, the very top, very bottom. I do like the day racing there better than the night racing, but all in all, it's still a great short track that we go to, and definitely a lot of good racing. And I think the crew guys are anxious to kind of see the transformation of that place on the infield, and it'd be cool to see.
Anything final for our teammates here? Dustin?
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. So, Ricky, once you found out what the format and the package was going to be for the All-Star race, I mean, what do you think about that?
Is the format different too?
It's 4 stages, 80 laps.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, I only know the aero package, so I think it's interesting. I do think we'll have to see how it plays out. I think the racing will probably be a lot closer. I do think that when you reduce the speeds, the handling isn't as big of an issue, and so I think the racing will be probably a little more intense. We'll just have to see how the fans like it. I think that's the biggest thing that we want to do is make sure that the fans enjoy our races, and however that may be, I think is something that we need to look at.
We'll come here to Lee and then Chris.
Ricky, what kind of a challenge is it for Ty running a limited schedule compared to what you were faced when you got to, when you were thrown into the Xfinity series?
Yeah, 2009 I ran 7 nationwide races, and that was tough. I had a few in a row, and I felt like I kind of got in a rhythm and felt really good, and then you sit for a while. And that's always tough. You feel like, the cars are always changing. You're always out there. The guys that you're racing with don't really, know who you are, especially in that car now that they have 3 different drivers. It's just a whole lot of different situations come up that I feel like you have to be aware of and, have to be ready for. I think Ty does a really good job showing up to the racetrack even when he's not in the race car. I think that's going to go a long way and help making sure that he's meshed in with the team. He's at the shop all the time. Things that I did when I was in the Xfinity series, just spending a lot of time with the whole shop, top to bottom, but especially the crew guys. And I think him having Mike Kelly as a crew chief is something that's really going to help the 60 car and those new drivers, going in and out of the race car. I think, Mike's experience, I'm really looking forward to seeing Ty run here. I think Mike and I had a few that we let slip away, and I know that he's wanting to get those back, and I'm sure he's probably told Ty that already. But they had a really good test here, and, I think him having, Mike leading that charge is really good. But it's definitely difficult to, go in and out of the race car and not be in that race car multiple weeks in a row.
Yeah, for sure. Ricky's ran really well at Bristol in the past. I also got some good advice from him last year at Iowa. We went there and tested, I think in late May. gave him a call after the first day of the test and just leaned on him and asked him some of the things that he focused on at Iowa. And so he's been there for me. Any type of questions I want, whether it's on track or off track related, he's been there to answer them for me.
We'll go to Chris.
Chris McHedgeFence.com. Ty, it's your 4th career Xfinity Series start this weekend. The last time you were in an Xfinity car, had a top 10 at Homestead, but this is a different animal. What would be acceptable performance on Saturday?
The biggest thing is just to put a whole weekend together and a whole race together. I felt like we had spurts of being able to maybe run the top 5 at Homestead early on, and we just didn't keep up with the racetrack as the sun went down, as the track got rubbered up. And that's something that I'm going to get better at, is knowing where the car needs to be in the beginning of the race to be good at the end of the race. And with 4 Xfinity races, and my first one ending short, it's been a learning curve for me just to know what kind of feedback to give to Mike to make sure the car is good at the end of the race. So that's something we're going to build on for sure. It's something we've been thinking about coming into this weekend, and hopefully we can put those things that I learned the past 3 races and make for a good 4th here.
We're going to wrap up on the far side of the room, on the right side. Do we have a microphone on?
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport. Ty, you're a short track guy. This is not a typical short track. Has anything or anywhere you've run in your career prepare you for this? Is there anything that prepares you for this?
Not really. There's one short track up in Wisconsin, Slinger Super Speedway. It's a quarter mile, banked like this, but you don't get the same speed sensation there as you get here. I mean, it's half the size of this, and you're doing it in about 11 seconds, and here you're going like 15 seconds a lap. So the speed sensation is great. It's something I had to get adapted to when I came here for the test. So I'm just very thankful we were able to come here and test. Shortened the learning curve so much for me coming here on race weekend. So optimistic. Like I said, like Ricky said, we had a really good test here. I think a lot of guys in the organization are excited about what we came home with from the test, and we're coming back here with something very, very close. So hopefully it responds the same, and we can go to work during practice and keep making adjustments and making the car better.
All right, gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Good luck this weekend. All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Bristol Motor Speedway. In advance of Sunday's Food City 500, we are joined by the defending race winner, Jimmie Johnson, driver of the number 48 Lowe's for Pros Chevrolet. Jimmie, you actually have 2 wins here at Bristol. Why don't you just talk about coming back here where you're the defending winner?
Yeah, I certainly hope to replicate what we did last spring. And even last fall, we had a really strong race and competitive, and have been able to really knock out top 5 finishes here. Excuse me. And gain points and get a nice trophy a couple times. So excited to be back. This racetrack is one of my favorite ones to come to. It's my favorite racetrack to watch a race at. I've been on the good side and the bad side of things that happen on track, so it's hard to say. I've joked around in the past that I love to watch a race here and haven't necessarily enjoyed driving a race here. There isn't another track in the country like this place to get used to it. So it really does take reps driving here and running here, and some guys have taken to it really quickly. For me, it's taken some time, and it's been a crazy journey along the way, and love seeing this place packed and the energy that comes with it. So excited for another fun weekend.
All right, we're going to get started with Woody and then come up to Mike and Kenny.
Woody Kane with MRN. Jimmie, what did you think about the All-Star package announcement this week with the restrictor plate and the aero package that the Xfinity cars used at Indy last year?
I feel the All-Star race is a great place to test things, and I'm happy to see NASCAR using that environment and also the Speedway willing to allow that to happen. In talking to the Xfinity guys that ran the package at Indy, I think Indy might serve that package better with the long straightaways to be able to take advantage of the way the aero works on the car. But let's try. I mean, why not? There's really nothing to lose, and if it might not be the package we love and want, but I'm sure it'll get us a step closer. And we'll continue to evolve, largely because so many people are willing to take this chance at the All-Star race.
Go to Mike, Kenny, and then Jerry.
Mike Hemric, USA Today. I know you're not going to be happy until you're the top Chevrolet, but Chevy in general has had struggles this year, other than Austin's win at Daytona. How has that generally played into the struggles you've had, or is your stuff a kind of a separate issue?
I don't know. I mean, the first mark, as you mentioned, is to be the top Chevy, and then at that point, I think my opinion would shift, or could shift, or be allowed to shift. But until then, I feel that it's something we're not doing right. Areas we're not working in the right areas to yield a big chunk of speed that we want to be in that dominant space. We are improving. We're making it better each and every week. And I've used this phrase many times before, but we're just stacking pennies, and when you start stacking some quarters. But the effort is there. We are such a united team and working as close together as ever. And I know in time we'll get there. I want to be there right now, and we certainly hope that this weekend we can turn the corner. But I think we're seeing some good steps and good strides. Friday and Saturday especially Saturday went really well for us in Texas, which I think is a good sign. Unfortunately, we didn't have a clean race day on Sunday and had a bunch of different problems that set us back, or got us in a wreck. But we're getting there, and until I'm that lead Chevy, I just need to keep my blinders on and stay within the 48 team and make sure we get me the best car that we can.
Go to Kenny.
Kenny Bruce with KennyBruce.net. Jimmie, along those lines, the shortcomings of the Chevrolet, as you guys try to figure it out, will they be as relevant here this weekend at this track as they would be somewhere else?
I don't think so. I think, granted, the speeds are high around this short track, but this place, I don't know, this place is very, very unique. I think Martinsville is another one that stays more consistent over time and is more of an equalizer than other tracks. So we'll see. I don't think that it's it's definitely not a 1.5 mile or 2 mile racetrack where you'll see some of the aero issues come into play as badly. Yeah.
We're going to go to Jerry and then to Bob.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net and PRN. In the past 10 years, you've only had one season where you haven't had more than 2 wins. You've had 3 last year, 5 the year before, 5 before that. You know your stats. Are you a victim of your own success in, the people expecting you to be in victory lane right now? And is it being made too much of a big deal that you haven't been there in a while?
No, it's definitely a story. I mean, we have high expectations for ourselves first and foremost, and we think that we should be in a position to win races every year and compete for race wins each weekend. So I think within that, there's a lot of fair questions being asked, but I think there is overreaction by fans and media on that last upper percentile of it. Especially all the very kind and wonderful people on social media and the things that they have to say. But that's kind of why I've also mentioned people underestimate how tough this garage area is, and many of the people that are so kind on social media aren't a pro at anything and don't understand what it takes to exist at that pro level, and it's tough, and it's small increments from good to great. And right now we've just been in that good category. We need to be great. We want to be great. So most of it's fair, but some of it's unfair.
Come up here to Bob and then go to Kelly.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. In the last week, we've been talked about teams being issued pick guns. You've had sponsorship news, and is NASCAR going to change the way they sell sponsorship? You've had all-star rules with restrictor plates at Charlotte. It seems like, I won't call it chaos, but there's a lot swirling around. What's it like to drive with all this other stuff going on, and do you pay any attention of it, think about it during 6.5-hour workout rides or anything like that?
I try not to think about anything when I'm on the bike, just enjoy myself. That's my me time. In a lot of ways, I'm close to the decisions that are being made and understand it and see the hard work that's going into this from driver councils and team councils, rule councils, NASCAR. So I am very close to it and understand why a lot of the change is taking place and certainly agree with. So Dale Jr. was asking me some questions on a text yesterday, and I'm like, man, I'm too close to it. You're a layer removed from where you once were. What's your opinion? My opinion, I'm so close to it and see what's going on, and I respect and appreciate all of the hard work that's going into these decisions and the reasons behind them. So I get it and think that we're, everybody's just trying really hard to get things right.
Is it overwhelming at all?
Yes, and what pops up in my mind is just the way my days and weeks take place now and thinking about the big picture in the sport. My driver responsibilities, certainly take up plenty of time at Hemric Motorsports and the things that we do, but to be on various councils and to think of things such a big picture in so many different ways and so frequently, that part, just sitting in 2 to 4 hour council meetings, 2-3 times a month, that's totally new. And what was the phrase you used? Overwhelming, yeah. Just sitting there like, this isn't typical driver responsibility. This is a bit overwhelming.
We'll go to Kelly and then up front to the far right.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Jimmie, much obviously has been made of your win drought and how next for you is 84 and where that ranks in the sport. But the next win for Hemric Motorsports would be 250 in the Cup Series, I believe. What kind of a milestone like that, what does that say about the longevity and I guess the place in the sport for Hemric Motorsports?
Yeah, first of all, to be here with 83 wins and have a chance to tie or to move into 84, I was thinking about this actually yesterday, Bob, on my bike ride, just how special it is to be in this position and how awesome Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip were in their day and are, and how much they mean to the sport. Where I sit is just an unbelievable mark in its own. And I certainly hope to move past that and move on, but, time will tell. For Hemric Motorsports, it's very similar, but I think on a larger scale. I don't, to my knowledge, know of anybody with as many victories. Did Petty? Has more? Okay. So I know that with Truck and Busch or Xfinity and Cup, I don't know how it all breaks out, but either way, and that's a huge commitment to this sport and this industry. And I know we have a big wall with all the Hemric logos that represent a win, and just stare at 249 victories and the names that are up there on that wall at our team center is spectacular. So I would love to be. I got 200 for the company. I'd love to get 250. And it means so much to all the men and women that work at and have worked for Mr. Hemric to be a part of that. And I know before I had my full Cup ride, I was there and watched him celebrate the 100th win just from afar at the back of the room. And to see the pride in that building and what it meant to everybody, it sucked me in. I'm like, I just want to get a win for the company. I want to be a part of this legacy and a part of this history. And little did I know we'd be sitting here with 83, but it just means a lot to all of us at Hemric.
Come here to the far right.
Jeff Birchfield, John C. Press. Jimmie, you've been a few races in now. What's it like different working with a lot of the younger drivers instead of the veteran teammates like you had before?
Yeah, I certainly miss camaraderie and friendships and history I've had with the other veteran teammates. You also learn setup styles, and when Jeff Gordon thought his car was perfect, I knew I needed 2 or 3 changes to get my car to where I loved it, and same with Dale and Casey and so on. So that part I am developing and trying to get my arms around, and it's going well. But I've just been really amazed with the sense of feel that my 3 teammates have with their race car, and can describe that. I look at William and how young he is. I don't know if I would be that calm in the car to sense those minor details and be able to articulate that to the team. So, I do miss my friends and do miss aspects of the work process, like I mentioned, but these guys they're doing a great job.
We'll come here to the far left to Jessica and then go to Tucker and Dustin.
Jessica Ruffin with NASCAR.com. We found out that Brooke and Chad are expecting this week, and Brooke had a funny tweet that was like all the screenshots of Chad sending her all these baby emails already. So you know Chad better than anybody probably. So what kind of father do you think that he'll be?
I'm excited for him. I can also recall him through my process of being a parent and the sleepless nights and different aspects of parenthood. His curiosity, and then just he doesn't know yet. He hadn't been there, and I'm excited for him to go through those experiences. He and Brooke are going to be amazing parents. It's an exciting time for them, and I think it will help make him a more patient man. I know being a parent's made me a much more patient man, so he has that lesson coming for sure. Yep.
We'll go to Tucker and wrap up with Dustin.
Tucker White, SpeedwayMedia.com. Jimmie, over here. Jimmie, your last two seasons have been, each season of yours have been statistically gotten worse and worse. Worse than, yes, I know one of them, you won a championship, but it was also your statistically career worst until last season. How much of that is just a product of Chevrolet falling off the mark these last two seasons?
You know, I can't put blame in one place, and it'd be unfair to say that it's, you know, a manufacturer's fault and responsibility. I mean, I think there's ownership, you know, there's responsibility in all areas. I think we can all bring more to the table and all do a little better job. You know, if we knew where to, you know, what button to push, we would have kept that 5-in-a-row streak alive and kept going. But, you know, on top of the things that we can control within our own walls as a race team, you know, the product has changed. We're in different cars, tires change, what other teams do. I mean, there's just a lot going on. And, you know, by no means am I content with where I'm at and where this team is at in our performances. But, you know, we can't work any harder. Manufacturer, driver, crew chief, team, organization, we can't. We are literally working around the clock and doing anything and everything we can. So at some point you have to say, look, we're all in. We just need time. We'll get there. So we need more from everywhere right now is our approach. And there's not just a silver bullet like, okay, boom, if it's this, everything will be fine. It's not that.
We're going to wrap up with Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Where are the Babe Ruth quotes coming from, and who are they meant for?
Google search is my friend. Just digging around looking for stuff, and then, you know, it's so. I've had a fun approach in the past of finding trolls and singling them out and having fun with that. But I was like, man, there's enough damn negativity in the world. I'm going to take a little shift on it, and thought it'd be best to find some inspirational quotes to kind of reflect where I'm at and what's going on. So, you know, I think that's been a more mature approach in a sense. I've seen a couple recently I drafted and worked on and saved where I was just going to go back to my old ways. And I'm not saying that I won't. If I have enough drinks on the flight home, I might. But I've just been trying to project positive vibes instead of falling into that trap of negativity.
Are you specifically looking for Babe Ruth stuff? Because it's the last couple of Babe Ruth, or does it just happen to be?
No, it just happened to be. And I think I used the same Babe Ruth one twice. It's just a damn good one. Yep.
All right, Jimmie, thanks for joining us today. Good luck
Thanks,
this
everybody.
weekend. All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Bristol Motor Speedway. We are joined by our 4 NASCAR Xfinity Series Dash for Cash drivers who will be racing for $100,000 in Saturday's Fitzgerald Glider Kits 300. We have Christopher Bell, driver of the number 20 GameStop Seagate Toyota, Cole Custer, driver of the number 00 Haas Automation Ford, Daniel Hemric, driver of the number 21 South Point Hotel and Casino Chevrolet, and Ryan Preece, who will be behind the wheel of the number 18 Rheem Toyota. Gentlemen, the Dash for Cash always adds an exciting element to these races here. How does it feel to know that you're going to be racing for the benefit of the local community this weekend with the charitable element that is brought forth by Comcast?
I think first off, anytime young racers like ourselves have the opportunity to not only affect what race fans see at a racetrack, but to know that we have an impact on the communities and know that we're going to have the ability to help a low-income housing family acquire internet, acquire all the things that we all need to go through our day-to-day lives. Everything we do is through some kind of internet service. So to have Comcast and Xfinity service, to know that they're allowing us to be a part of something like this is really special.
Anybody else have anything about that or racing for the 100,000?
I think Daniel pretty much summed it all up right there for sure.
All right. We'll open up to questions for our 4 drivers. We'll start here with Matt.
Matt Weaver with Auto Week. This is a question for all 4 of you. Typically, when we talk about prize money for the Cup Series, I think a lot of fans are kind of dismissive of it because it's like all millionaires racing for millions. But your situations are all very much unique and different. So when it comes to running for a large prize money, how does it change the dynamic and how important is that money to each of you?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm used to running for anywhere from $2,000 races to $10,000 races. So to come here and have a chance to win $100,000 is a big deal to me. And all of us do say, you know, it doesn't matter if it's at a go-kart track for a piece of plastic or for $100,000. We're going to race each other hard, pretty hard. So I would say that's true, but at the same time, $100,000, I know what it'd do for me, and I'm going to race very hard to get that. What would it do for me? It would do a lot of things for me. Like I said last week, it would help me build my race car, so that's a big deal.
Yeah, I feel like Preece hit on it pretty well there. You know, we had the opportunity to sit down after last week's race at Texas, and I'll echo exactly what Ryan said, and that's, you know, every time we go to the racetrack, like you mentioned that all of our situations are a little different, and they're all unique in their own way, but none of us have that guarantee that we're going to have the option to race next week. Yeah, you sign contracts and it all says that, but you never know if this is your last race or not. So we just do everything we can to live in the moment, and having $100,000 on the line on top of that just makes it that much more sweet. And hopefully when it's all said and done, we can put on a good show for the fans, and it's a heck of a group of guys to race with to try to get that goal.
Yeah, I mean, obviously $100,000 is a lot more than any of us usually race for. So I think it makes the race a little bit harder, maybe a little bit more aggressive at the end of the race. But it's a really cool thing that the Xfinity Series does for all the guys. So it's I'm looking forward to it. I think we'll have a good shot at it this weekend.
It's just special, man. To be able to race for that amount of money is something that you don't get to do every single week, and it's something that I've been looking forward to ever since I announced that I was going Xfinity racing. So thank you, Comcast and Xfinity, for putting up the money and allowing us race car drivers to, you know, have a big prize to race for at the end.
Coming here to Jeff, far right.
Jeff Birchfield, John C. Press. We've heard for years fans complain about Cup drivers racing in the Xfinity Series. Whoever wants to address this weekend, there are no Cup regulars in the Xfinity Series race. So, you know, talk a little bit about that.
For me personally, just my own personal view, I think it's, you know, first off, we all enjoy racing those guys. They make us better. Obviously, Christopher and Ryan being teammates with Kyle and Suarez and Air Jones, those guys that get to come down and run, and myself with Austin and Ty, and that makes us better. But on the flip side of that, it's cool to see a guy like John Hunter Nemechek get in a car, Shane Lee get in a car this week, 4 or 5 other guys in the field that wouldn't have the opportunity if the package and the rules weren't laid out the way they are this year. So anything that provides opportunity for a younger guy to have a shot to come up here and have the opportunity to make a name for himself, that's what the series is all about. So I know each and one of us are looking forward to having the next 4 weeks to hopefully shine a little bit, maybe even a little bit more than what we do on a typical basis, and you know, take what the weekend gives to us. But it's definitely just a different dynamic that I'm pumped that we're going to see how the next 4 weeks turn out.
And obviously, just to say what he said, so I'm on that receiving type end, like Shane Lee and the other guys that are getting those opportunities to run this weekend. If, as much as I do enjoy racing Kevin Harvick's, Kyle Busch's, and such, would there have been this opportunity that I've gotten this year if they could race all these races? So that, just like Daniel said, it creates opportunity for people like myself and gives us a chance to really show what we can do.
Anything further for our Dash for Cash panel? Go to Lee and then Kelly.
Clearly, you guys distinguish yourself on the racetrack, but you know, you hear the pundits all the time discussing about bringing you guys in and not having the Cup interlopers. How do you distinguish yourself off the racetrack so fans really want to get behind you?
I think it's just doing whatever feels right to you. I know everybody's got this whole, I'm going to use a couple examples here, but Keselowski goes out and does a campground deal. I see a couple different drivers doing their post-race videos and posting it to their fans. And we all enjoy doing that stuff when we're kind of asked to or whatnot, and we don't really turn that stuff down. But as far as just being true to yourself and don't push anything you're not comfortable doing, I guess. At the end of the day, I feel like what I am and who I am as a person is what got me to the situation I am, and the fan base that I have from the short track ranks and coming up just like Preece and these other guys next to me. And I just try to do what, you know, keeps myself grounded and feels right to me.
Yeah, same thing, absolutely. So, like, for example, Daniel, I've known Daniel's background. He was a hardcore racer. He's worked on all this stuff. He didn't, you know, I don't know if you posted it on social media like I try to, just so people can see that, because that's kind of how I've tried to grow my fan base, is show them, hey, I'm just like all you guys. You know, you wouldn't have saw it if I didn't post it out there. And that's I think that's kind of gotten the racer that races on a Friday, Saturday night. You know, I have them all behind me too. And I said it last year about Iowa. There was people at Stafford Motor Speedway, or any racetrack, Bowman Gray, everywhere. They sent me photos and everything that they were skipping practice to watch that race. So I feel like that's kind of what I've tried to do, and just like Daniel said, be true to yourself, be who you are, and then people just kind of latch on to it.
Are you proof that a weekend racer can make it in NASCAR?
I think Daniel's proof. I think all of us are proof. I think we all just have different ways of getting here, and you know, a lot of people that are in this series deserve to be here. And even in the Cup Series, you look at all those guys. Everybody has a different way to get here. I've just had a little bit of a different way, and that's what I enjoy about it. Yep.
We'll go to Kelly, Claire, and then Chris.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. For any or all of you, one of the things that constantly stands out when it comes to, you know, the Xfinity series is whether it's talking about the Dash for Cash or just, you know, any interview in general, you guys all give Xfinity and Comcast a lot of thank yous and credit, and just talk about how you enjoy working with them. And it seems to be a little bit normal than maybe what we see in the Cup Series when it comes to guys talking about Monster. Why is that? How has it been working with Comcast and Xfinity, and have they gone, I guess, above and beyond to make this series, you know, fun for you guys?
Yeah, I think first off, you know, you start from the top, in the top of the Comcast world down, you know, Xfinity, and everybody that pushes this series since day one, they've been as involved and continue to grow their involvement in the series. And when you see a title sponsor like Xfinity come in and do the things that they do for not only us, I mean, we're racing for $100,000 this week, and we get to do it 3 more times after this. Not only that, but the stuff they do for the charities, all the involvement is so far above any series I've personally ever been in. So to know that you have their support, that makes you want to go out and you want to talk about them. You want to talk about the products they offer and all the good things they're doing in the communities. And that's just an incredible opportunity for us. And I know it's, you know, all the guys, you know, throughout the field don't get a chance to do the interviews, but I promise you, even the guys running 35th back, like, they're thankful to be here. We're here because of Xfinity, because of their involvement and their love for our sport. So I know I'm personally lucky to be part of the Xfinity series. I'm sure all these guys would say the same.
We'll go to Claire, and then Chris, and then Caleb. Far left.
Claire Beeling, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. I played a clip last night of the 4 of you in studio after the race last week, talking about how you'd race for a stick of gum and showing your personalities, and it was really entertaining. But after that, I took a poll and asked fans if they thought, you know, it's a great promotion, but if they thought you guys would really race harder for $100,000. And almost everybody voted yes. They thought maybe subconsciously you would. However, they said maybe, a guy called and said maybe the strategy would be different. Do you think the strategy of your racing will be different because of this? And subconsciously maybe, even though you will race hard, I mean, you're scrapping for your lives, as you said.
I think that's, so for example, it's no different than, like, I think, Bell, you said, and you were in the top 4 into the Homestead. It's the same thing. So going through the ranks and racing, anytime I've ever been successful winning championships, it's because I went out there to win the race. You go out and win that race, that's going to take care of it. So that's my agenda.
Yeah, I think Preece answered that as best as possible. $100,000 is great, right? That's what we're up there to do, especially this weekend as an added bonus. But we still go to the racetrack every single week to try to max stage points and try to get the best finish we can for the owners and our teams as far as points go. So with that being said, I know they don't want, you know, like, for instance, I know his team don't want him to go make a crazy move that costs them owner points and driver's points because he wanted to get $100,000 and put himself in a bad spot. So you got to finish these races. I know all of us throughout our career have been told that we got to run all laps before we can worry about finishing first. So we're going to continue to keep that mindset. I know that at least that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say most of us, I think all 4 of us, just going to be worried about the end of the race, just because that's when they're paying the $100,000. We're not paying it on the stages or anything. So I think it's definitely going to set yourself up pitch strategy wise. Whatever happens, you're going to worry about setting yourself up for the end of the race, I would say, though.
So for me, I know I talked about it last week, but it's, you know, you're racing 3 other competitors for the bonus. So I guess the only differing strategy would be if the yellow flag comes out and you pay more attention to what these other 3 are doing compared to the rest of the field.
We'll go to Chris and then wrap up with Caleb.
Yeah, ChrisKnightCatchFence.com. Don't forget the Xfinity to go at. That's pretty badass too. But Ryan, next weekend you're not scheduled to run at Richmond, but you have a car capable of contending for the $100,000. So if you do get the $100,000, you would be eligible for the Dash for Cash at Richmond. How do you convince JGR to put another car together?
That was my question too.
Well, I guess we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But you know, we're gonna approach this weekend like it's my last, and we're gonna try and win the race. And you know, I guess I'll ask that question when it comes. But at the same team, I want the 18 to go there and have a really solid race. So I don't want to take anything away from my other teammates also. So a fourth car could do that, and I'm just worried about Bristol.
We're gonna wrap up with Caleb.
Caleb Whistler kicking the tires. Daniel, how do you stay focused on the Stash for Cash program while also preparing for your Cup debut next weekend at Richmond?
I think it's doing a lot like Preece was talking about, and that's just living in the moment. I've had a couple of my family members ask me, like, man, are you ready for next week, or are you excited? I'm like, yeah, that's fine and good, but I got 2 more days on my agenda to get through Bristol, and my focus is 100% on that. And obviously it's a great opportunity to know that I get to go to Richmond next week and live out a lot of our lifelong dreams, and that's make my first start in a Cup Series. But at Bristol, this place takes every bit of concentration and focus you possibly can give it, and then throw 100 grand on top of that and all the other stuff we race for on a weekly basis. So just trying to stay as involved and fully locked in on what's coming up this weekend.
All right, gentlemen, thanks for joining us today. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.